So decades before Daredevil would get a proper reboot with the Netflix series, there was plans in the 80s to actually make a kid-friendly cartoon version for Saturday morning animated shows that would have sort of tied the character into Marvel's animated universe that they were formulating at the time. This, of course, connecting it with the likes of Spider-Man the Animated Series, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, and the Avengers. Now, the series actually was in production and they were trying to get all the pieces together, and then it all changed when Frank Miller did one comic book cover. Now, this all came down to Daredevil 184 on March 23rd of 1982. It was this cover that ended up setting everything back and taking the character pretty much off the table for an animated series, as Daredevil was seen pointing a gun. And ABC just looked at that and said, you know what? We don't want this right now. We're going to put a, hold on making these Marvel cartoons right now. Now, believe it or not, we actually do have some ideas of what the cartoon pitch looked like, as John Romita Sr. actually has these images out there, and they're kind of like, this is what we intended it to look like when we pitched it. And if you look at these right now, it's interesting because it's different. And honestly, it looks very unique and stylized, and obviously the animation would not have been like this. It's just kind of a pitch for a vibe of what the show would have been, if you will. But ultimately, once that Frank Miller comic came out, and once Frank Miller was doing Born Again, they looked at that, they looked at the violence and said, so if the kids watch the cartoon and then they want the comics, because remember, at the time, this was a huge outlet, comics were big, kids would go to the shelves and see Daredevil pointing guns and pick up a comic, and then it's super violent and, Frank Miller-y on the inside, and parents would probably complain, and ultimately that led to the downfall of what could have been, in my opinion, a very unique take on Daredevil as a cartoon.